Welcome to our interview, Ahi. And today, we have the honor to have Ahi Iden and the interview today to talk about health and safety in the workplace. Ahi is an occupational health and safety management consultant within over 20 years work experience. He got an MBA and a master degree in workplace health and safety, and currently a doctoral fellow researching on workplace health and wellness promotion and impact on workers' health and well-being. And he now works as CEO at OHSM since 2012. Welcome, Ahi.
Thank you so much, Esme. So good to be here.
You're welcome. And I would like to start with our interview questions, if you are okay with that.
That's fine.
Okay. So, what are the specific characteristics of occupational safety and health in Africa? Are there a big difference between countries? Just to add on, Alad he is from Nigeria and he has worked in this area in Africa for over 20 years.
Okay, thank you so much, Esme, for that question. Yes, occupational health and safety is developing um, in Africa, but not at the speed that we expect. Yes,
Yeah.
it differs, the growth and the practice differs from country to country. You take Southern Africa as a key example. Occupational health and safety growth and practices is higher in the Southern African region than when you measure it with what's happening in the Western, the Eastern, and perhaps the Northern part of Africa. And largely, occupational health and safety in Africa has not had its required growth or because of poor enabling legislation on occupational health and safety in Africa. Most countries in Africa still do not have legislation strong enough to push or create enabling governance for occupational health and safety practices and issues in that country. And this is the bottom where the issue really lies. You look at some countries and you see the policy they're using or legislation they are using or the act they are using is as far it was developed as far back as 1976, 1988, and these are no reasonable documents that can match the growing trend of health and safety in Africa that we are in today. And this is where the problem is. And we also have high level of poor leadership commitment. Leadership don't see health and safety as what is necessary to promote or to predict the growth of national economies. But the truth is, health and safety practices is an integral growth of any economy in the world. No country can be productive without a healthy population. And health and safety stand a great chance to promote health and safety within the workplace, keep workers safe. Because in most times, you see workers who have left school and they've spent 4 or 5 years of laborious time in school, and they pass out
Mm-hmm.
from school and they join the workplace and they are killed or they die or they are accidented and disabled in less than 5 or 10 years of work. And this is not a good practice that we should continue, because any person who went through school to study, I mean, we should start calculating the cost of accidents of a single person that dies due to occupational health and safety issues in Africa. Because you look at the years the person would have worked, what would have come in as resources to the economy, and how much the person would have contributed to the region. And these are critical issues that we ought to be measuring, that we are not measuring as of today. Until we start measuring these, we will not know what the value of occupational safety is in Africa.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's super sad if the worker that receives a well education and then has been disabled within a very short enough time and just because there is not enough safety and health regulation. But do you think this would be related to also as you mentioned, like economy incentive to the employer? Because for them, maybe not implant these things for the short term. They have their lower costs, but of course, in the long term, you have to start to training again the person. You have to pay for the um, hospitalization if someone get hurt. But do you think is this also the reason the economy incentive is not enough for them to implement all these things to their company? Can you hear me?
Yeah, when you look at occupational health and safety, you look at it from, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes.
When you look at occupational and safety, you look at it from country level
Yeah.
and enterprise level. Okay.
Mm.
Then when you look at it from country level, it means the country first has to set regulations, laws that govern health and safety in the workplace. And these laws have to be adapted or adopted by enterprises that function in that country. Then we come back to the economics of health and safety. There's no enterprise that has put occupational and safety, the safety of the health and workers first, that never live to prosper. Because at the end of the day, you think you are saving cost by circumventing health and safety, by taking shortcut, not implementing health and safety rules. One accident is enough to keep you out of business, and that is the truth. So the more healthy workers become, the more workers' health and safety are protected in the workplace, the more productive the economy, the enterprise becomes. And we don't really know this because most times we are not able to measure what we lose in our organizations because we don't
Yes.
give credence and give attention to health and safety. Because people are not optimally productive if they are not healthy. People spend more time in the hospital because of what they are exposed to, looking at occupational health illnesses and diseases, looking at occupational accidents, people that get injured in the workplace. They are not working at the time they are injured. They have to be in the hospitals and stuff like that. We are not able to put cost to this level of absenteeism and out of work practice by these people who have been sick due to workplace health and due to workplace occupational illnesses. So these are critical issues. I think we need more enlightenment to be done in this direction. Educate business owners, educate captains of industry, CEOs on what they stand to benefit by giving the right kind of leadership to occupational health and safety in the workplace. Because if whichever balances you weigh these two concerns, profit and safety, whichever way you weigh it, you can never lose if you put safety as a priority to your workplace. But what we see most times in the workplace across Africa and even Nigeria, in also where I live, is that we set up health and safety to compete, if even we have them at all. Sometimes we set up health and safety and profit to compete, if even we have them at all. But in most cases, you find out that we talk about profit, nobody's talking about safety. Health and
Yeah.
safety health and safety and profit should not be set at even competition. What we can do is, let's have good practices where we profit by practicing health and safety. Most times we see companies declare their balance sheet, their profit at the end of every year, every financial year. This is how much we made. This is how much we made after tax. But the question we should start asking, those funds you are declaring that you made after tax, how many workers were sacrificed, were killed, were maimed, were injured, became ill for us to post that profit? We should be looking at all the profits that have been brought forth, declared, and let's look it through this health and safety lens and look at how many bloodstains we have in those profits of workers who died for companies to profit. This is where the discussion should begin from. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree on this. So do you think this should be like the education of the leaders and to or to the change of the regulation should be the focus of Vision Zero on safety and health in Africa? Like this part, like how to educate people or how to make the right incentive for the companies, the enterprise to set up self safe and health
The three has to come
regulation.
together. First,
Sorry, I think the internet has stopped.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah. Um, the three have to come together.
Yes.
Look at legislation. There has to be the right kind of legislation, because that is the framework, the guidelines that we must use in the workplace. We have to have the right kind of legislation. We have to have education and reorientation of employers, captains of industries, and business owners. Then three, there has to be what you call enforcement of the law. Because if we have the legislation right, the next thing is that the owners of industries or of organizations, are captain of industries, are made to follow and obey the legislation. And most time, because we don't have the right kind of legislations, so in some cases we don't have the legislations at all, so they have nothing to follow, to adapt. So, and when they are not following the legislation, the next line of action is to enforce those legislation. And when they violate it, then consequences have to come. Penalties is what drives legislations. Because when you have the right kind of penalties, when you violate the legislation, there are penalties or consequences. People will do the right thing. The truth is that in most countries across Africa, you have in multinational companies, that's where you have the
Yes.
traces of health and safety. Why? Because they want to adapt the policies of their
Sorry, it seems that the internet has some problem.
parent company that already.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah,
can you
I
hear me
can.
now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So I said,
like so the international or multinational company are the company that adapt more rules because they want to follow the policy of the mother company, you say? Yeah.
yes, that's what happens in Nigeria and many African countries. So you find out that when you go to those companies, you can see them striving to also follow or implement health and safety policies, because that's what the parents company require of them. But you now have some indigenous companies in different countries who don't even have regard to health and safety. And you have also some companies who also know the gap in the country's health and safety legislation, and they take advantage, they exploit that gap, and just come in and practice without health and safety compliances, and end up killing most workers in their workplaces, and nobody brings them to order. And these are some of the things that we have going on across many countries in Africa.
Mm-hmm. So that might make them not as sustainable as those company who has implemented this kind of laws or regulation, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And I want to ask that in 2018, they have created Occupation Self Safe and Health Africa. And what are the essential objective of this?
Yeah, occupational safety and that's OSHAfrica started as a movement by Africans who were concerned about the
Mm-hmm.
state of health and safety in Africa. We were all in the ICO conference in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
That's in Seoul, South Korea. And even before then, we had a conference. We had a conference in Frankfurt. But what we kept hearing in conferences is that people talk about Africa. They talk about other part of the world, and they support those discussions with data. When it comes to discussions about Africa, they put question mark. Africa doesn't have data. And those are and some of them even put data that is not
Mm-hmm.
true, not correct, and does not represent the true state of Africa. So this happened in World Congress in Frankfurt 2014, and it happened in
Mm-hmm.
ICO Congress in South Korea 2016. And meanwhile,
Yes.
there are a lot of Africans that were seated in those conferences and wondering what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. So we got concerned, and we all sacrificed our lunch one of the days to meet amongst us Africans. We were about 22 Africans in that
Mm-hmm.
small meeting to discuss these issues. I mean, we feel embarrassed the way figures are being thrown that doesn't represent us. We feel embarrassed the way we are being talked about. There are no data in Africa. Is it true there are no data in Africa really? And the question is, it's not true. There are data
Mm-hmm.
in Africa, but they have not been fully harnessed together and published in journals where people can see them. But you also agree
Yeah.
with me that what is not documented does not exist. So this became the
Mm-hmm.
issue. So we found out why are we not having data? We realized we were not working together. We were working in silos. There were people who were working on their own, and nobody knew the work that was going on in Africa. I mean, the person in Botswana, the person in Malawi, the person in Kenya, or even Burkina Faso is working on his own, does not know what's happening in Nigeria, South Africa, or even Mali. So we've said, yes, this is the problem. So what we intended to do at that meeting was the 22 people that were in that meeting with 2 senators from Kenya, we all came together and we started sharing information. We collected each person's details and everything, every information that we can use to reach ourselves. We felt we should start talking to ourselves so that this working in silos can be broken. So that was what we did. So when we came back, we started setting up set up the group on WhatsApp. We started exchanging numbers. Some were not even interested, but we followed it through until we built the group till it became 100 persons on that group. So when we became 100 Africans on that group who were into occupational and safety, we realized, yes, we sizable number, the need to register this group and make it a legal entity became necessary. So we went to register it and made it OSHAfrica, and that was how it came about. Then the next thing we had to do was at the registration. After the registration, we had a congress in ICO Congress in Dublin. So we did our international launch of OSHAfrica in Dublin.
So we were talking, I think it's a great initiative that you're talking about, like collecting the data of Africa and collaborate with different countries, because maybe someone has already implemented some of the law and has good, it's very efficient to the country, and someone can learn from those experience, or some bad part, like you can try to avoid it. And so I think this is really a great initiative. So can you share a little bit more about that to us? Like after the data collection, now you have OSHAfrica, and what's the next step of that?
Okay, what OSHAfrica has done for us is that we are now able to know ourselves across Africa. I mean, since I became the president of OSHAfrica, I mean, I have had the opportunity of knowing Africa more than I did before. So we are now able to know what happens. I mean, now we have about over 250 people from 40 African countries. That's a lot. So now we are able to know what's happening across different countries. We are able to share information. We are able to work on projects together, share data. And this is one of the key things that OSHAfrica has been able to help us to do. But one primary objective why we set up OSHAfrica was to bring Africans that are practicing occupational safety together for collaborative work and sharing of data. That was the major objective, for collaborative work and sharing of data. The truth is that we want to tell the African story, but we want those stories to be told by Africans. No one can tell the African stories more than an African can tell his story. So we are re-owning back that narrative. You can't stay in Switzerland, or you stay in Houston and talk about, oh, this happened in Africa. No, we know what happens here. We should be able to talk about our story being told by an Africans, and that's what we're doing. So we had a conference, our first conference in Johannesburg in 2019. It was attended by over 120 people, over 1,200 people from 49 countries. That was an excellent conference, and we had people coming. We learned a lot. It was a 3 days conference. So that's our triennial conference. It holds every 3 years. So the first one was in 2019. The second one is going to be in 2022, and it's going to hold in Kenya. But because of the COVID-19 interruption, we are pushing that conference to 2023. That's where it's going to be. It's still going to hold in Kenya. And this is how it is. So we are not able to learn from ourselves. The weak countries are able to learn from the strong ones, seeing what country A has done, country B learns from it. And we are putting this together to build the African narrative. But one critical thing we have been doing in OSHAfrica, OSHAfrica has three scientific committees. We have the scientific committee on OSH legislation and policy improvement. We have another one on OSH education and competency improvement. We have another one on OSH research and data publication. But for the OSH policy and legislation and policy improvement, what we are doing right now, the project we are on right now, we are reviewing all the occupational health and safety legislation of all the 54 African countries. We are pulling the legislation, reviewing them, so that from all we are pulled together, we can come up with one African OSH policy or legislation. And this we hope to do and submit the report to African Union for review and ratification, so that we can build what you call the one, the the African OSH protocol, which of course become an occupational health and safety document that can be used across Africa. What this will help us to do is, assuming okay, you're from Hong Kong, you are coming to invest in any country in Africa, you don't need to start looking for what policy from Nigeria or policy from Uganda. You look for that central policy. It tells you what is required, and you are able to use that to guide your business investment in Africa, what you have to put in place. And this is what we're doing right now
Yeah.
along those lines.
It definitely will be really helpful for the outside investor, but also for the insider, because you have like one standard. And if you are multinational countries, it's way much easier this way. And it's a great initiative, and it covers the three things you'd have mentioned: the legislation, the education, and the data. And I want to shift gear a little bit to ask you about the waste management in Africa, because I know Africa is doing very well in the recycling. And how do you think, is it this feasible and in the long term, like doing even better in waste management, or do you have any other suggestion on this?
If you say Africa is doing well in waste management, we beg to differ. I don't think we are doing well in waste management, because waste management is still a big issue in Africa. Talking about sustainable development, waste management has a very key role. And when you look at the waste that that's been generated from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa generates the highest level of waste in Africa. And in as much as 90% of the waste generated in Africa are recyclable, but you find out that most of those wastes are still thrown into the open or general waste bin or waste can or dump site. And this is not helping us. Nigeria, for instance, I mean, you need to come look at what's going on here. And yesterday I was going out with my wife, and I saw somebody, I see that every day, somebody riding on a vehicle and drank a bottle of Coke or ate something in his car and wind down the window and throw it on the street. That is unacceptable in every standard. Yes, I see this in Lagos every day. And you have government has employed workers that they pay every month to sweep the street. But if we cannot even think of how to manage this waste on our own, because the truth is waste management is not government absolute responsibility. This is responsibility of every citizen in the country. Because when my children, they know, they dare not. When they eat anything inside my car, they keep it inside the car. They cannot throw it out through the window, because that's the law I have instituted that guides my family and our practices. So this grows up with them. So if every one of us decide to take a good position and put up decent practices, not even in the office, but in your family, on waste handling and waste management, we will have a better country. So we are making things difficult for government, because imagine Nigeria. Nigeria is about 200 million people. South Africa is almost going to about 60 million people, and Kenya and all that. The populations are going up by the day. We cannot afford to leave waste management in the hands of government. We need to help government. Things that we know are not so. Maybe yesterday I wrote on my page, if I happen to be the president of this country, Nigeria, two clear things I will do. One, you will not have drinks, water sold in plastic bottles. It's not possible. If you want to bottle your water, bottle your drinks, they should be bottled in reusable bottles, because the law on waste management talks about reduce, reuse, and recycle, isn't it? That's what the law talks about. So when I had a conference in Vienna, I realized in Vienna the water that we drink were bottled in reusable bottle, and that's a very good practice, and which of course we can adopt here, so that we don't have the plastics are not degradable. You leave the plastic on the soil, 10 years to come, it's still there the way it is. and you see our canals, our water channels, our I mean, everywhere is filled up with these bottles. We have sachet water, we have bottled water, we have everything is packed with plastic. Then the second law I should be looking at is the polluter pay law. What that means is that if you are able to pollute the environment, be ready to pay for the cost of the waste. I mean,
Yeah,
I
to
was in
pay
Cote d'Ivoire
for,
for a meeting some time ago.
yeah, if you do the pollution, you have to do the purification of the, like, even the water or
Yes, yes,
the
yes,
air that you
yes,
polluted. Yeah, I think that would definitely make a lot
yes.
of sense.
I was in Cote d'Ivoire some time ago, and I went to the shop to buy a few things because I didn't go with my shaving cream. I went to the shop to buy a few things, and I was told that they cannot give me a bag. I mean, a plastic bag like this. They couldn't give to me that if I must have a plastic bag to put my shaving cream into, I have to pay for the bag. That is what you
Yeah,
call polluter pay law. That means if I know that I will pay for the bag in the shop, it means if I'm going to the shop next time, I pick my
I'll
bags at home
bring,
that I've
yeah.
already used to bring in my items. And these are kind of laws I think will actually drive our waste management system in the country. But for Lagos, for in Nigeria, I mean, some pockets of countries are waking up to this reality. I mean, South
I
Africa
think
is
in
trying,
Kenya
Kenya is
that,
trying.
yeah,
Yes,
you cannot have plastic bag. I was very surprised when I went to
yes,
Kenya that
yes,
you cannot have plastic bag. Yeah.
yes. But again, I will also recommend. I mean, even to the food store, to the fast food store, I don't think plastic bags are the ones that they should use degradable bags. Degradable
Yeah.
bags that look like, yeah, those are better. If you want to buy your food from a fast food joint or buy anything, they should use degradable bags for you because those ones, when water enter, they degrade as quick as possible. So these are the things that we should. But in Nigeria, where I stay, Lagos State government is doing a lot on that, where people can actually pick all those recyclable materials right now and take it to
Hmm.
government recyclable site, and they are paid for picking those things. They sell it to government, and government recycle them to come up with other things. I think this is recycling is the way to go. If it's been adopted across many countries in Africa, we'll end up having a very better Africa. That is the point.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. And I think that we finished all the questions we have. And thank you for your time so much, Ahi, today. And let's keep in touch.